Hey, I wanted to go ahead and make a video on this entire iPetGoat film. Now, I'll tell you from the jump, I know I'm going to miss a whole bunch of stuff in here. I'm sure there's all kinds of cryptic encoded messages that I just am not seeing yet. But we're just going to go over it, and I'll just tell you what I have found. This right here, of course, this is a doorknob. This is a prison meant to keep people in. That's why it's angled in. You got the prison lights that come on. This is a doorknob, evidently to open the prison door, but it has barbed wire wrapped around it. And this goat is going to come out and hypnotize people that are on the outside of the fence. He can't open it himself, but he hypnotizes people on the outside of the fence in order to get them to let him out. And that's what this video is going to show, is that they do blood sacrifice and stuff while receiving messages from him and learning how to open up the abyss. So from the jump, you had the doorknob, the escape route. On this circle, this is where he's going to come out at this hole. There is a line going up here, and then there's a black line going to the side, and over here you have a line right there. Now, I don't know what this means. My thoughts on it are that it probably represents 12-3. Anybody who's followed my videos knows that that 12-3 number seems to be prominent in this video, and I think it references December the 3rd. But it would, if it was 12-3, it would be off-centered a little bit, being that, you know, it has moved somewhat past the 12. But that's just a theory. There is a line here where the 3 would be, and there are no other lines. This black line right here, again, this is conjecture. I don't know what it means. My thoughts on it are that it corresponds with how the East Coast gets nuked, as I'll show as we go into the classroom scene. And this man with this dog, the dog is, you know, barking over here on the side. He's a guard, and letting you know that the danger is over here somewhere. So as we see in the video, when we go into that classroom scene, we'll see that the bombing comes on the East Coast. And so that's my thoughts on it, that this would be representative of the target area, the east side, and then the dangers coming from this direction. Alright, we'll move on. Like I said, I'm sure I'm going to miss a lot of stuff. I'm just giving you my thoughts on it. And this is in slow motion. He has a barcode on his head that's 666. This is a goat. His bell rings twice, and then a third time here in a little bit. There you have him hypnotizing people on the outside. There's a reflection in his eye, but I don't know what it is. This looks like a bent piece of barbed wire, but there's actually a line back there on the fence. He has a W, what kind of looks like a WH on his forehead, but more likely looks like a W2. And this right here, iPetGoat, the name of the film, iPetGoat 2, I take as the name of this film, Pet Goat, the name of the story being read in the classroom where Bush was on 9/11 was the pet goat. And so I take this as reference to that, especially in light of the 9/11 towers back here. So I take it as the name of the film, and akin to 9/11, what happened on 9/11, but the sequel. That's my take on it. There again, you have the 9/11 towers. There is something up here. Looks like a little sheep, a little lamb or something. There's something over here on the wall. It almost looks like a black W, and then a black box with a white H in it. and you kind of see the same thing right here, but there is definitely something going on right here. It almost looks like a word. You can take it as a W with a black box with a white H in it. These two areas, well, you can look at it for yourself. I'm not sure what it means, but there looks to be like a little word right here. We're just going to move on so this video is just not way too long. Okay, here you have what looks like the devil's hands. There is a serpent here on this ring with a rod behind it, and this is akin to how Jesus said, as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so also must the Son of Man be lifted up, in John chapter 3. And there are different versions of like Gnosticism, but one version says like the serpent is basically a version of Jesus, like Jesus came to them as a serpent in order to free them from the oppressive rule of Yahweh. So Yahweh was telling them, don't eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and then the serpent was like, do it, you won't die. And then when Jesus came and said, you know, you won't die if you believe in me, that was like a fulfillment of their belief that the serpent was Jesus. But I don't know exactly the implications of it. All I know is that this is a serpent. It has an eye, and it looks like a dollar sign, but it's not. This is a heart with blood coming off of it, is what it looks like. And since it's connected to the hands that are holding the puppet control, I take it as this probably represents the doctrine, and this the blood sacrifice by which they control those who are under their power. He controls those who are under his power. In other words, once you are in by the blood sacrifice, or once you have done this act, they can blackmail you. You can't get out. You're bound by the oath to them. They won't let you leave without killing you. That's what happened to Kurt Cobain. And this probably represents like the doctrine, the manipulation, the hope they have in the falsehood. This is in slow motion, high definition, so that's why some of the sounds are distorted. George Bush with his dunce hat on. I'm going to try to slow it down right here because there is something important. We're probably going to see that a few times as I try to pause it. That's just what my computer does. This is the only time that you get to see this far wall over here. There's nothing on it, but you get to see this corner and the far wall. This is the only scene where you get to see it, in this very first opening scene. And the shadows shift. There's definitely patterns, but they shift, and I looked at it, I don't think there's anything there personally. Okay, Bush is tap dancing here. Well, I'll come back and explain some things, but just he's tap dancing, he's entertaining these heads right here, whoever this is watching him. He also spooks them out, and we'll see later. My computer's tripping. We'll see later that that he's spooking them out, and he's looking straight down there. We'll see later that this is the 12 deceased people behind the little girl. This black lady right here is looking at him. She's pleased with him. She's kind of happy with him. But that's going to change as the video progresses, and she's going to become disgusted with him. We'll go through all these scenes, but first I want to explain this aspect that is coming up. He's still a puppet, and he's dancing in a star, a lit up star. Now watch, as this star moves, the star is going to move, and one point is going to rest over the top of this shark, and the other point is going to go up this east coast on the map. Now, something to note as well is that his hat points to the shark while he's looking at in that direction as well. Check it out. his head is going to stay in that direction, but when his hat is pointing to the shark, he's going to be looking over there at that map. See? Now his hat is pointing to the shark, and he's looking at the map. So you have kind of a dual witness here of the point of the star being on him while it scoots up the East Coast, and also the point of the hat being on him while Bush looks at the East Coast. And this, I believe, is representative of nuclear submarines. An underwater predator is a shark, and as we'll see, this map over here has 4 pins in it, and these are locations of destruction that have come upon the United States. 9/11 World Trade Tower, Oklahoma City bombing, Hurricane Katrina, where they blew up those levees and killed them people, and depending on how you believe in HAARP, weather modification and stuff like that, you may say that they had something to do with the entire thing. I don't know, but I do know they blew up those levees and killed a lot of people. And here you have the Deepwater Horizon oil platform that blew up and spread that oil. You know, you had hundreds of miles of like oil slick, oil residue. These are major disasters that came upon the United States. And so when the star shines on the shark and on the map at the same time and scrolls up the East Coast, that is basically telling you that the next event on this map where the events are pinned is going to go right up the East Coast. See, it went right up the East Coast, and it's going to pertain to this shark right here. Now, the shark is also destroying this house right here, but not as a regular shark would. Not as a regular shark would with a bite, but with fire. And that's because it represents a nuclear submarine. Now, this house is in flames, and if you'll notice, there is a line coming up at an angle like this behind Bush's head, but there's also a line coming like from the shark horizontally. So you kind of see coming like out like this, but then it goes up like that. So it's almost like the house first, and then it goes to the map if you follow those lines from the shark. So let's just try to keep a train of thought here. Okay, that's the meaning of the shark. And actually, like I said, it is represents a nuclear submarine destroying the East Coast with nuclear missiles, and this represents the destruction of the White House. And I don't really have a method to go through here. There's a lot of correspondence in here, but I'm just going to try to take it in sequence. So we'll reference these points that I'm making, and so keep that in mind, because I'm not just saying this is the White House and just willy-nilly. I mean, there are other things that co-witness to it. This owl up here, and mind you too, the hat with the D, you know, of course that stands for dunce. But one thing I was thinking about, which may, and I don't think it probably isn't correct, but just a thought that came to my mind when the hat was pointing to the shark and he was looking over here and it's got a D on it. I was thinking about D-Day, you know, the beginning of the invasion into Germany during World War II. Anyway, this is a picture of an owl, which is Molech, who they sacrifice a baby to Bohemian Grove every year. And so they do blood sacrifices to this Molech creature. Here you have a penis with testicles that is shooting semen, and it looks like this on his eye may be related to that. I don't know if that's what they intended to show, but if it is, I believe it is just referencing their vision, you know, what they have in mind, what they are looking at as their goal whenever they're bringing about this destruction. And this represents the Antichrist infusion of his genetics or his doctrine, I think. But we'll touch on that a little more. I mean, of course, you'll remember this, and I'll reference back to it as we go along to show that that's what it means. Now, Bush is saying here, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me, but you can't get fooled again. Notice up here, this clock is on 12, and this gun, if you took that as a second indicator, would be to the 3. It may not mean that, but this clock is on 12, and this is obviously a picture of what they say is the evolution of man. Goes up here to the point where the guy's got a gun, and then there is a break, and then there is a transcendent being here, and that is their doctrinal belief. That's the doctrine of the Antichrist, is that man will transcend this time-space continuum and be able to go back in the past and make changes in alternate dimensions. They believe in like the multiverse, multiple dimensions, such things like that. Kind of like a Schrodinger's cat type deal. You know, there's different potentials, and they get to transcend this dimension and go back into other dimensions and reverse the evil that has come upon the earth. I notice here that this is lit up whenever he's confused and he's looking in that direction, and I think it's supposed to be a reference here that, you know, how is he going to bring this about, or if he doesn't accomplish it, you know, he's going to die or something like that. So he's really under a lot of stress here. Now watch this lady over here. Remember? Okay, he's going to go into a trance, and then he's going to come back throwing devil signs and I don't know, just evil. But you see this lady, remember how she was smiling at him while he was dancing, but now she's looking with a frowned up brow. She's not trusting him anymore. And the reason why that is, and you'll see her again right here. See her looking over there to the side. And that's what he's saying. He's saying, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me, but you can't get fooled again. He's saying, you know, the first 9/11, of course, Bush was president at that time. You know, they pulled that off. But now there was a level of distrust. There's suspicion about it. But once they changed the puppets, once they changed the presidents, then Obama is going to wink over there at her, and she's going to wink back. And I'm just going to leave the sound on for a second so you can hear that. We'll get to the rest of the symbology and stuff that's in the background. Again, you know, my interpretation, I'm sure, is not going to be flawless, and I'm sure I'm going to miss a lot. But, okay, he's looking up. Remember, the puppet master was up. So that's the way I take it, is that he's looking, probably getting his instructions from up there. Looks like there's some lines on his gloves. But he's going to wink over here. Notice that he has the graduation cap on. Bush had a dunce cap on. Obama's got the graduation cap on. So he's bringing something to a close. But he's going to wink over here at this lady. And now, did you hear the ding when he winked? Now she's going to wink back. Listen for the second ding. See, she winked back. Let me hear it one more time. So she winks back, so the trust is restored, and he's able to implement more of the agenda. Now he comes out looking all sweet and everything, but then he's going to laugh mischievously. But then he goes mischievous, but he's being told to do that on his teleprompter. And the reason why is to create distrust and dissatisfaction with the American government, so the people would revolt or be willing to revolt or be willing to receive an alternative or overthrow of their government. The nation is just getting prepared for destabilization, and he's got his graduation cap on. Our nation is being systematically destroyed intentionally. He is intentionally supposed to look like he's untrustworthy. But I did notice too that this LOL goes over the top at the very first of this VOL. And if you'll see in this, and that's what this is, the Hangman game. The Hangman game, you guess letters to try to guess what this word is. It starts out with all blanks. You guess a letter. If it's in that word, then you write the letter. The person who knows the word writes the letter where the letter goes in that word. If there is no letter in that word that corresponds with the letter that was guessed, then you draw a head, and then you miss another letter, you draw a body, and you keep drawing body parts, and if you get all of the body parts, then you lose. The hangman dies. But if you guess the word before he gets all his body parts, then you win. Well, you can see he's almost dead. He's got one more limb to be drawn. But if you notice, the word is obviously evolution, but the O has already been guessed, and there's no O over here. So it's almost like the LOL, like it ain't gonna happen. So death is inevitable, but what they are teaching is that they can transcend death. So death is not the issue to them, it's how to transcend death, and to them that is a form of evolution. Evolution is the goal, but death is inevitable, I think is maybe what they're saying there. I have some reservation about saying that, because in Revelation chapter 9 it says, in those days men will seek death and will not be able to find it. And also in Joel chapter 2, I think it says the end time army, they'll fall on the sword and it won't hurt them. So I don't know. I've thought that Mark of the Beast may be a form of immortality, like a false immortality, if you will. But that's my thoughts on that. I'm just going to keep moving. But he's intentionally looking mischievous. Let me go ahead and, like I said, this is going to be somewhat chaotic. I'm just telling you what these things mean, and then as you go back, you can piece it all together. I don't like to do it like this, but it would be so long if I tried to reference everything and jump back and forth the whole time. On the back side of this wall, you have different pictures and icons. Down here, you have a F equals minus F. Let's just back it up so you can see it. Okay, you have a F equals minus F, which I take that as force equals minus force, or for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. You see, F equals minus F. For every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. And I made another video on the Antichrist doctrine, and basically they think that for all that evil and destruction they do, there's going to be an opposite reaction in an alternate dimension. And so they think they're going to transcend this reality. So by bringing about so much evil and destruction in this reality, they are producing a good result in an alternate dimension. That sounds weird. Look at my video called the Antichrist Doctrine and iPet Goat 2. Now this green dragon right here, looking at this brain with a lightning through it, I believe corresponds with the scene in this video where the boy has his head cracked open, which we'll see as we go on, and his brain is emptied out, and there was that green-faced, one-eyed entity looking at him through the TV screen. I believe that's what this corresponds to. Basically the robbing of the culture, the breaking down of the culture in order to get people to accept the Antichrist, in order to make people vulnerable. This heart, what I take this heart as is, this classroom scene basically lays out little snippets of the entirety of the show. So I believe this represents the Antichrist heart, and how basically he gains fire throughout this video. Whenever they do blood sacrifices, you'll see a little fire come on his heart, and then later there'll be more fire. I just believe this probably represents part of their doctrine. I could be wrong. Over here, there are snowflakes. Now, these snowflakes, as you can see, they all have the Star of David pattern in them. All of them do. All of them do. Now, they trickle down from this map where these destructions are, and they come down to an electrical outlet where there are no sockets. There are no sockets on this electrical outlet. And so I believe that that represents, after the nuclear destruction, there is going to be no electricity. And notice the snowflakes during winter with no electricity, no sockets here. So the next catastrophe, according to the map, is nuclear submarines attacking the East Coast in winter or causing a nuclear winter and no electricity. Okay, we're gonna keep on moving. There are 3 hearts on this chalkboard right here, and I take those 3 hearts as potentially representing the third. Maybe you see how the third one is really big. In this video, what we'll see often is the 12:3 reference, and I don't know that for sure if that's what that means. I don't know what it means, but there are 3, and the third one is emphasized. It's really big. So that's just my thoughts on it. Over here, this represents the destruction of the White House, I believe. This is scheduled to happen on December the 3rd. And over here, which will include the death of Obama, is what this video is saying. We'll get into that later. But over here you see the O, which could represent Obama. It's also the 16th letter of the alphabet, but the O, and then the Z. And I take this as Obama, rest in peace, Z. And you'll see a RIP on his nose here in a minute when it shows him up close. There are white squares up here to correspond with the A, B, C, D, but you can barely catch glimpses of them, in this video. But the ones that are off are the O and the Z. Alright, so we're gonna move past this scene now. Alright, on this wall right here, this is Eve, as in the Garden of Eden Eve. On this wall you have a flower, which I take as representing the Garden of Eden. And you have Eve written right here on the wall, E. And I believe this is supposed to be a V. You kind of see the design for a V and then an E. I take that as, hidden code to show that this is Eve. The first time it shows her, it has this on the wall. She's holding a fruit here, and there are characters behind her, and we'll look at them as we proceed. But she looks up. She was looking at the fruit, but then she looks up and she sees what all is going on. It represents that she sees the chaos of her action, because, as I said, they expect to go back into an alternate dimension and change the future in that alternate dimension to counter all the evil that is done in this dimension. And so she's seeing all this evil done by the presidents, all this destruction around her, and she is actually going to change her mind from biting of the apple or biting of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, as she did in this dimension, and the alternate dimension is going to be one where she did not. Now, I said before, that the 12:3:16 is referenced in this video. And if you'll notice, there is one character who has the barbed wire wrapped around him, and he has an X. It's scribbled, but an X, and then looks like 1, 2, 3, 4 lines with a line drawn through it all. So 15 is over. So in the 16th year, L C on his leg right there. So that's the 12th letter alphabet, the 3rd letter alphabet. So 12:3:16, if you will. And there are also symbols on these other ones' heads. And I think, there are 12 of them, and I thought it represents the 12 apostles. I don't think they meant it as that in this video. I think this represents like different influences upon her. Well, I'm just going to move on. This, I think, represents how they got kicked out of the garden in the beginning. You see the yellow flower when it first showed her, and then the yellow coming off of them. I think this probably represents them getting kicked out of the garden and all the killing of the animals and stuff, the garden, perhaps. Back here is obviously garden, bushes and stuff. You see flower right here. And she is looking at all this destruction. Now she is sitting inside of a sun here, the outline of a sun. And that is also in the Heliophant title. But what this means is at the end, I am going to jump one time. I want to just show you something. At the end here, like I said, they expect to transcend this reality. You see a baby looking at the sun. Okay, this represents the coming of the true Christ, I believe, and how their destruction is coming. But then you see a baby looking at it. In other words, you're about to be reborn. You're going to transcend death and have a new life in an alternate dimension. And so as it shows her sitting in this sun symbol, that is representative of her being in the transcendent realm beyond this present life, or beyond the destruction that is coming. Now this blotch here that's going towards it, we see that in the Heliophant symbol as well, where you have the sun there. Helios, by the way, is the old sun god. So is Apollo. And then you have, sounds like stone sliding, and it scoots over there towards the sun, and that is basically going towards the destruction of the world, I believe, and going to be able to transcend it is their belief. So this, I think, means like the transcendent influence upon her. And she is thinking about her decision to eat the apple or eat the fruit. She sees all this destruction, and now she is changing her mind. And that's why everything, all this destruction, goes dark. It represents that this is negated now. And the only thing that is left bright is this rabbit and the exit. In other words, she changed her mind. Instead of this dimension, the rabbit is taking the exit. And now she's thinking about she's going to drop the fruit. And in that Donnie Darko show, where Drew Barrymore is teaching the class on one scene, and she says, Deus ex machina, God from the machine, saved the rabbits. And at the end, well, long story short, God from the machine saved the rabbits, and they present that God from the machine at the end of that show as Frank coming out of the car, and that's what Donnie actually says, that he's our savior, and then he calls him the Deus ex machina. But it's interesting, she says save rabbits, but the rabbit goes to exit. She changes her mind. She's going to drop the fruit. So this dimension of sin has been avoided. They think that they transcend it, and it's going to be able to produce an alternate dimension that basically makes this one of none effect. So watch as she drops the fruit. You'll see the 2 bites on it. There's 2 bites, one representing Adam and Eve's. Oh, and by the way, it looks like there's sin written on her dress. You can see the S here. See the S? And then you see an I, but it's kind of funky looking. But then there's an N right here. And I take that as sin, you know, the original sin. But as she drops this fruit, she changes her mind. So they think by doing all this evil, they're going to dissuade Eve from eating of the fruit. See, as she drops the fruit, there's a big bite mark here, that orange spot, and then there's a little bite mark here. And that represents Adam's bite mark and her bite mark. So she drops that and spins. And it rolls over the top of this 12-3, this LC, the 12th letter alphabet, the 3rd letter of the alphabet. And it hits Obama's foot. Now, remember this part, that there's 1, 2, 3, 4 with a line drawn through it here. X, 1, 2, 3, 4 with a line drawn through it. And that means the 15th year is already completed. So in the 16th, we're now in the 16th, the 12th letter of the alphabet, the 3rd letter of the alphabet. So 12, 3, 16. When it hits Obama's foot now, it moves his foot, and there's an X that the fruit makes with the pattern on his shoe, makes an X, and his foot gets knocked over the top of this British pound right here, which it was the world reserve currency before the dollar, and so represents economic crash. So 12, 3, 16 hits Obama's foot, X on Obama's foot, economic crash. And what I take that as is they're going to, and I'll show you this later on in the video. We saw the O with the Z. Well, we'll just talk about that when we get to it. Now watch this. The fruit breaks at an interesting spot, because remember there were 2 bite marks on it, and you can actually see the big one and the little one as it spins, but you can barely see the little one at the top. But now it's going to bounce off his foot and roll right back to where that little one is at the top. That is Eve's bite mark, and it's going to split right in the middle of it. Watch, right there. Now that's to say that they canceled out her decision, that in this alternate dimension there was going to be no sin. So they basically negate all the evil that they do. As a matter of fact, they excuse it and justify it in this realm by saying it is a dissuasion towards Eve. It produces a good result. That goes back to that F minus F. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Now this, I believe, represents the Antichrist genetics. And this probably represents 2 men. One who is joined with Antichrist and one who is not. The lotus blooms out of this combination, and the lotus is a symbol for the expansion of the soul, and so the transcendent state from the joining of the 2. Now remember this, where these seeds are, because you're going to see something overlapped. And watch this. 2 seeds right here. Watch. Now you have the seed that was joined to the Antichrist is a whole circle, whereas the seed that was not is still broken up. And so that represents their conscious transcendence of this reality, whereas the other one is still floating around being reincarnated and isn't transcendent, yada yada. So let's continue. I'm sorry, excuse me. I don't know why it does that. Okay. Now Obama's going to look down at this day, it's 12/3/16, and he's going to be sweating here. But notice on his nose here, there's a RIP. There's a R. It's elongated. There's an I. And there's a P. It's elongated, but it says RIP. He's looking down at that date, at 12/3/16, and he's sweating. Now, as it zooms out from him, he's still looking down at it, but the only thing it shows on the chalkboard is the house that I said is the White House. That's the initial attack that they're going to do, I believe, in December 3rd. And his note said RIP, so I believe that's the initial attack. And then as it zooms out, you're going to see the greater destruction that is to follow that initial attack. This is just a reflection of the Psalm 23 that's on the wall. This video is not going to be as chopped up as you can go watch my other videos for more details. But if you cut this letter off, this says Psalm 23. Written really funny, but if you cut this word off right here where the lightning bolt is, then it looks like D-O-N, and then if you take this as an A and an L and a D, it looks like Donald. You can go see my video on that. I actually do process it out like that and show what it is, but I believe this says Donald as in Donald Trump. The flag gets ripped in half. Flag has one star on it still. This clock is pointing to 12 right behind the name Donald, but the bell tower only rings twice. Now, in as much as the bell tower rings twice, I think it was saying that before this event with Obama, Donald Trump was going to be elected and there was going to be division of our country. And you're going to see this flag actually float back here. This flag floats back, and then it pops up right back here for a second. It's going to float over here and it's going to twist. Now what we see elsewhere in this video, this is obviously like the 9/11 World Trade Towers. This, remember, is 9/11 Part 2 or Pet Goat, the sequel. And what you see here is the submarine. Remember we saw the chalkboard destroying the house and destroying the East Coast? Well, here you have the submarine. It looks like a submarine, but it also looks like a shark. On the back of the submarine, this black submarine, you have the missile silos, I believe are represented by these lights. You have teeth, made out of lights that represent the shark teeth. So this is a submarine symbolized by a shark off the coast. Now in the cloud as well, the nuclear ash cloud, you have what looks like a shark's head. See the mouth, the eye? And I believe these actually look like submarine fronts, maybe, or boat fronts, the fronts of the submarines. But this is like an ash cloud, I believe, like the nuclear ash cloud that comes over the land, the nuclear winter that follows a nuclear attack. And if you'll see here, there is actually an arrow, looks like an arrow pointing at the shark. See? Arrow. That this caused it. This is a submarine. It kind of looks like the hammer and sickle, but I don't think anybody could prove that to me. But it definitely looks like an arrow pointing at the shark. You're going to see the electricity go out in this tower, and that's showing that this next 9/11 is going to be without electricity. Remember, we saw the outlet without electricity on the wall. It had no sockets in it. See, electricity went out. Notice also that this fence right here, this defensive perimeter, is trailing off into the water. So the defenses are broken. We can be invaded now. I'm going to try to catch this little flag as it pops up. Okay, see, there's the flag, the little object that just popped up there. You can go watch my videos for more details on that. The towers fall. Of course, the controlled demolition as they get blown out, which really happened on 9/11. Now this is the Antichrist minion. Throughout this video you'll see the same character with different masks on, different expressions, and he spins around and jumps into the water, which I take it as, a lot of the followers of the Antichrist are going to die in this attack. But they believe in transcendence, so they take it as like their ultimate death. Okay, now we go into the abyss scene. This is Anubis, the Egyptian god of the underworld. And of course, it's a boat that has the Antichrist in it. This is interesting because this is a scene where all these people are on this boat behind Osama bin Laden. Now this boat is moving, it's pushing the ice out of the way and everything. But this references the Syrian refugee crisis. You see in the Syrian refugee crisis how all those people are coming across on boats, packed on the boats, standing up. Muslims, military-aged men coming under the guise of humanitarian aid. And that's what we see here. Now they're following Osama bin Laden, but he's dead. He's got crow wings on, which represents death in this video. That means he's already dead. We'll see that later. But it's under the guise of humanitarian aid. Red Crescent is the same as our Red Cross, but this is the Islamic version of the Red Cross. It is inverted a lot of times. You'll see it facing the other way, but it just depends on what side you're looking at. One commenter said that there is supposed to be a moon that corresponds with this around December the 3rd of this year. So that's something of interest. On his outfit here, he's got a CIA badge. You know, it's an inside job. The people that are with him, they have heads that look like bombs, artillery bombs. So even though it's under the guise of humanitarian aid, they're actually terrorists. This, I don't know what the lightning is there. I've asked for feedback on that. It looks like it has some type of something in there, you know. It almost looks like a pattern, like you would expect for it to make some type of sense. But this is a scene where you have oil pumping and it is flowing unabated into the ocean here. And I take that as, you can see my video on the first 4 trumpets. I take that as probably offshore oil wells being destroyed and the sea being contaminated in large part by the oil. Somebody said it represents the oil surplus. You know, I see the excess oil that's not being monitored, but going into the ocean, I don't think that really fits what we're seeing here. I think this is pumped oil being pumped straight into the ocean, just like we saw in the Deepwater Horizon scenario. This kind of looks like a plane or a bird or something, but I don't know what it is. This looks like a chair. There's actually a scene right here that kind of sort of looks like it has a shape. This right here, and then the chair in there representing where the presidents were. And so maybe, even though it's a different, it's not 100% the right shape, but maybe this represents the chair, the only chair in the video, where the president was. Maybe this represents the coast, the coastal waters that were beside him. I don't know. But you can see when the oil drips into the water, the oil has this multicolored aura. And that obviously happens when you drop oil into water. And so this is water and this is oil. So it's oil going into water. Here we have the Statue of Liberty, and you're going to see a Star of David come around it. Remember those snowflakes that were in the shape of the Star of David in the classroom? This corresponds with that event. That's the thing about this video. It has indicators that correspond. So when you see clues in one thing, then and the same thing in another scene, then you pretty much know that those two scenes go together in some way. So those were snowflakes that corresponded with the catastrophe to come upon the United States, and it trailed down to the electrical outlet with no sockets. And notice also that there are ripples that start coming around the Statue of Liberty that weren't there before. Watch. See? Big ripples. Does that represent EMP? I don't know. But the sky closes up, no more light from above, and the light down below falls as well, which I take as nuclear winter and no electricity, because the light down here falls and the light from above falls. This represents abortion. It's an innocent baby praying. They believe by killing good, they deter Eve. They produce good in the alternate dimension by doing more evil. And so by killing this innocent baby that's praying via abortion, they think they are producing good in the alternate dimension. So they're basically out to kill us, out to destroy this world, what they're out to do. Under his eye here is Ordo Ab Chao, which means order out of chaos. That's what they're trying to do. And notice too, every time it shows his eye, there's always 3 lines in it. I said before that 12/3/16 is the date predicted, but you'll always see 3 lines. You'll see that in his eye. Here again is Anubis. Only one eye is highlighted. And we're going to see the Antichrist. He's in a coma state, but because of the abortion that has been going on, he gets a little fire. And as the sacrifices continue, the blood sacrifices continue, you're going to see him get more and more fire. Remember in the beginning of the video, he hypnotized people that were outside of the prison in order to get them to let him out. That's what's going on. By blood sacrifices, people are empowering him by destroying this realm. This is him in his comatose state, but out of this eye, there's going to come his interaction with our dimension. That is, his spiritual interaction with our dimension. He is evil, and this thing that comes out of his eye is evil. He's going to look for who to torment and torture. This is a winter environment. This boy down here is traumatized. His head's busted open. You see the top of his head back here, and he's just going through. He has what looks like a priestly gown on with the yellow colors and a blotch here. And he's just tormented. There are drugs on the ground right here. And he looks hopeless. And this thing that come out of the Antichrist's head is going to see him now and wants to do, like his eye says, Ordo Ab Chao, order out of chaos. He's thinking destroy, corrupt, everything bad in order to try to bring about something good. Notice again the 3 in his eye. Always the 3 in his eye. Over here, it actually says, I've looked at this really closely. Under his eye here, it looks really like it says MP India with like a scroll thing going around it. So I don't know if that means like magnetic pulse in India around this time or what. But I believe this green-faced man corresponds with the green dragon that we saw under the chalkboard. And one of his teeth are gold here as well, which I don't know what that means. One of his ears has a gold earring in. But I think the tooth being gold maybe have some significance. One of his eyes is darkened. If you ever see the Illuminati puppets in them, how they cover one eye in the media, the celebrities, they always take pictures covering one eye. It represents their belief in 2 dimensions. You'll often see them doing it with a butterfly as well, which you can see in the video I made on the Antichrist doctrine. And it represents how in this dimension they are one thing, but the vision that they have for the next dimension is yet to come, or obscured at this time. It just represents a dual dimension, a dual transcendence. Okay, so he is in this realm in a sense, but the Antichrist is in another realm. So this is his spiritual interaction with this dimension. Under this boy's eyes, the first word is, it has NT, what looks like NTUM, which I take as quantum. I think it actually shows the beginnings of an A, or the ending of an A as well. Second. Yeah, it looks like ANTUM, which I take as quantum, which is what they base their scientific, theology on, basically, is quantum physics and alternate dimensions and stuff like that. And they're using the CERN facility, which has to do with quantum physics, in order to open up the abyss and bring the Antichrist out, try to figure out how to transcend this reality. Now, his eyes are going to say markets plunge and then war coverage. But even though the markets plunge, the S&P 500, for example, is only down 0.65 points. That's not a market plunge at all. That's because this, I believe, is occurring on December the 3rd, which is a Saturday when the markets are closed. So the worldwide markets are plunging, the stock futures are plunging, but the actual markets are closed and cannot plunge to represent what's going on. And so this December the 3rd event corresponds with this market plunge without the S&P 500 plunging. And I believe this is a result of the initial attack of the White House being hit. And we did also see what looked like, to me, I'm not 100% sure, looked like MP India under that guy's eyes. So this is after the White House has gotten hit, markets plunge, and now war coverage. Now these three planes shaped like Masonic symbols with red and purple lights on it fly over and bomb this mosque. Now what they've been trying to do is bomb Syria, but Russia has stepped in and said, no, you're not going to bomb Syria. And they've set themselves up in a defensive posture to basically say, if you bomb Syria, we're going to nuke you. We're going to blow you out of the water with nuclear missiles. They're getting ready for nuclear war. Putin had 40 million people participating in the drill, preparing for nuclear war. Okay, there's three planes here. One of them has this object on the back, which I looked at. It's actually the missile. One of them is going to shoot a missile out, and that's what that is. But they have red and purple lights in different patterns, but they all look like a Masonic symbol. They go over here. They bomb this mosque. I don't know if this is supposed to be the Dome of the Rock or this is supposed to be Syria, because they're trying to bomb Syria right now. But as a result of this, missiles come out. See, these are missiles that shoot out of that. As a result of this bombing, missiles come out and go towards these American targets. This is Brooklyn Bridge. This is a city. Different targets. This looks like a ship, and this is a Pentagon down here. Now, out of this mosque fly up these black crows. Remember I said the black crow wings on the back of Osama bin Laden represented that he was dead? Well, out of this mosque come up these black crows. And that means dead Muslims in this event, or dead souls that do not benefit their desire to kill pure souls, in order to make that counterbalance and try to produce a good result in an alternate dimension. They want to do evil and kill what is good. Otherwise, they don't think it benefits them. Now, this butterfly that comes out of this mosque, this butterfly right here, remember how he had just a little fire with the abortion? Now he's got more fire. He's got more fire because killing has taken place, that is, at the event of the White House, to give him more fire in his chest. But then when they, in retaliation for that false flag, go and bomb the mosque, then a pure soul gets turned into fire as well. We'll see that pure soul later on as well. But he's going to turn this butterfly, which represents the transcendent state of man, as a caterpillar goes into a cocoon and then comes out a butterfly. Butterfly represents the transcendent state of man. This transcendent soul, he's going to turn into energy to help him change reality, change the alternate dimension. It empowers him. Now, this Antichrist minion is looking up. He's sad. He doesn't like the killing, but he's still going to bow out and continue to do it. He's getting his messages from the Antichrist through the spirit realm. One second, my computer. Okay, here you have this lady with a red halo around her head. I don't know what that means. I'm thinking it probably means she's like a holy lady, maybe, and her sorrow is helping their agenda of bringing about chaos and destruction and sadness out of that which is good. Remember the missiles shot off to those targets in the background on the mosque. Now, this is the boy that was killed at the mosque. We actually see that later on. I'll just go ahead and show you a picture of him. This is the boy right here. He's coming out of his mosque. He's got his eye damaged. It's the same boy. So this was that pure soul, that butterfly that comes up out of that mosque. So this image right here represents the mosque where this boy is, and then the bombs that were shot, the missiles that were shot off after that in response were nuclear. I take this as a nuclear missile, nuclear explosion. And so again, the targets in the U.S. are going to get hit by nukes. And she is surrendering here. It looks like she's surrendering her possessions or surrendering her oil. She's giving up, surrendering whatever she has. Or it may be seen as like an offering. But this boy is dead. His eye is damaged. The scarab beetle across his face. The scarab beetle is an Egyptian symbol for resurrection or eternal life. Because the scarab beetle used to bury its eggs in dung. And they would see a beetle come out of the dung and they thought it was resurrecting. So that's what that represents. So they're basically telling you their doctrine here that even though they kill the boy, it's okay because he's going to have life after this. His eye is damaged. That represents the transcendent state. Remember I told you? So they're just basically justifying their deeds by saying he's transcendent. This is a little girl. She's laying on her side. This is her hip right here. She's got a bottom on. See, she's got breasts. She's been through a lot. She's got scars all on her arms. And she's got an AK-47 that's all scuffed up. So she's been through war zone. And this guy right here with a skull and crossbones tattoo. And this upside down cross is going to reach over and untie her bottom. And that's going to basically break her spirit. It looks to me like there's probably a word or something up in here. But I haven't been able to make anything out. He unties her bottom. She looks over at the screen. And then her life, basically her spirit just dies. I guess that's what I take it as, because he's about to rape her. But she's got this heart in her head, it looks like a little crown on it. I think they're just saying that there's, this is their hope. This is basically what they're saying. We do all this evil, but there's a good result to it, It's crazy how the devil's got people's mind deceived. So that's what he's about to do, is rape her. I think this corresponds with the Middle East, what goes on over there. This skull may correspond with the skeleton event that we'll see. But I don't think so. I don't know. But this looks like a small lotus plant, maybe. And it's sliding down this trail of toxic sludge. And it's going to this guy, and he sees it. Remember, you see how he was focused on it, but he knows he's about to die. He's singing in this toxic sludge. He's got a Juanita tattoo on his arm. He's got a hammer and a sickle, which represents like USSR, maybe Russia or communism. think probably Venezuela. Maybe representative of nations that do not side with the New World Order. There are still some nations that don't have a central bank. But the thing is, the world is going to be in such turmoil. I think this represents the nuclear waste that comes after nuclear war. But he's basically, the message here is he's about to die. He's sinking in. He's dying. Communism. I think this is a composite of nations. Honestly, those who are not sided with the New World Order, they're gonna die, and the lotus comes down, and he sees it. So it's basically evolution or death. You accept the transcendent doctrine, or you're just gonna die like that. So that's kind of their offering of hope to him. So again, they try to put a silver lining on all the evil they do. But there's going to be a revival, though. There's going to be a revival. God will not be silent. That's something I don't see them having factored into this video. No, I believe it. That's what I believe. This represents the demilitarized zone in North and South Korea. This is like the border. They have fences that face each other to keep the North out of South and the South out of North. On the ground here, you see a flag or a symbol of what looks kind of like a yin yang. The symbol for South Korean flag is actually a yin yang. But what this is, like I said, this represents the border of South Korea, and this on the ground does as well. This is the border between North and South Korea, and it kind of actually has that shape to it. And so this represents North Korea. This represents South Korea. This white dot here represents something that is keeping the peace between the two, keeping them from coming over. And as the line breaks, this dot is going to deteriorate until it's nothing, and that represents the destruction of the U.S.'s influence. How they're not going to be able to keep the North out of the South any longer, because we are basically, the U.S., I'll say, is kind of like the strength of South Korea. This represents the capital of South Korea as the North invades the South, represented by these tanks, and also represented by the merging of this white into this white. You're going to see the capital move up to the north, which means the North has taken over the South. And there we go, one more time. See, this dissipates, they go all in, and the capital moves up to the north. Now you see this tank right here has a pyramid sign on the front. I think that just means they're behind it. And this tank has a green light, whereas the ones behind it have red lights. But it definitely, the front one on the front has that green light to it. All the ones behind it have a red light. This girl has a tiger on her back. The tiger is the official animal of South Korea. Like America has the eagle, Russia has the bear, South Korea is the tiger. So this is a South Korean girl. The skeleton grabs her in haste on the back, like grabs her really quick. So it's going to be a surprise thing. She turns around. See, she had a lot of gusto. She had a lot of pizzazz to her. She was really enthusiastic and confident, if you will. No nukes. You know how they keep saying they don't want North Korea to have nukes or to use nukes. Probably a heart like love. We want to live. But as the U.S. is taken out of the picture, she's going to lose, and she's a sign of peace or surrender over here. But as the U.S. is destroyed, the power of it is destroyed, which we saw by the light on the ground too. She's going to lose her hope because they have no strength to resist. And remember the I'm getting uncomfortable. 1 second. Remember the pink and purple, or red and purple lights that were on those planes that flew over? They correspond here, I believe, with these red and purple lights. They were only red and purple on the plane. So here I think you have that event. That is, first, the bombing of like Syria. And then you have this over here, which represents the North Korea, the green light on the tank. Remember how that tank had the green light? This represents a sequence of events here. Green light on the tank, that is the North invades the South. And this white circle, I think, represents the new Korea, the totally invaded one entity now, as the white light merged and the border was gone and just made one light. And this surprise right here, notice it's got a black and white and then red, and then it's got orange and white. And there's actually a little pattern here. I don't know what it means, but I believe the sequence of events here is as follows. She's trying to resist North Korea, but the bombing of Syria takes place, and in conjunction with all this, she gets that surprise, which I think represents America is not able to help you anymore. So this represents the attack on Syria, North Korea invasion, North Korea accomplishing the possessing of the South Korea. This is her surprise that the U.S. can't help her anymore. And I think that's what's represented by the skull figure too, skeleton figure, pushing up daisies, the death probably of the United States. There's actually what looks like an eagle here, maybe a bird with a wing right here too, maybe even a second bird, but definitely death and a surprise. I thought maybe this was Winston Churchill because he always smoked a cigar and wore that top hat, but I'm thinking this just represents the destruction upon the United States. But this is the demilitarized zone right here. And see, her help is gone now. U.S. is out of picture, so she don't have no hope against North Korea now. Again, it's the Antichrist. See how he's getting all this fire? That's because of all the destruction. And this film is not in perfect chronological order. It does kind of go back and forth because you'll see him again with less fire. But after the North Korean event, after all that destruction, he gets all this fire on him. And notice on his boat here, there are lines that are not consistent. And I think this may be representative of a barcode. You'll see more lines on it as it zooms out later on. But he's in a coma state with barbed wire on his head. Remember the barbed wire at the beginning? This is not a crown of thorns, this is barbed wire. Now remember the barbed wire at the beginning when the goat was in that fence? So this represents the same thing. See the lines? I don't know what that means. Maybe Morse code? Somebody cracked that. Now, this is just more continuation of his Oro ad Ko, like is under his eye. He's torturing this boy to try to get him broken. And then when the Antichrist does appear, the boy's going to receive him. I'm going to pause it on the eye because it looked like it said something. We might discover something together here. Well, that obviously is the Oro ad Ko. What is that? Looks like it might be something. I don't know. But again, the 3 on his eye. He's looking. He's got a reptilian eye. And it almost looks like he's mouthing saying, "You will die." Or, "You must die." He's just going crazy. But remember, the Antichrist manual was looking up at the sky, getting his directions. This represents like the multiverse, like layers, dimensions, layers of reality. And this Antichrist is communicating through layers of reality, other dimensions, if you will. His eye, the all-seeing eye, they call it, his influence is active in this dimension, but his presence is in another dimension. according to them. And this one is going to shoot some fire to show them basically the way out of the abyss. And it lights up this exit path to get out of the abyss. That kind of looks like a RA, like Ra, I don't know. It looks like tonsils, I don't know really what this thing means. It's got fire. Now things are going to start to fall apart, but watch. As things are collapsing, watch what's causing it to collapse. You see this tunnel was lit up now, and then things started collapsing. In other words, the way of escape is shown somewhat now, and then things start collapsing. That is, now people, this one up here who is serving him is seeing the way to get him out. And if you'll notice on the ground here, there is a circle. It looks like a 9 or maybe a 6, but that is also the shape of some like hadron colliders, because it shoots the particle in here and then it goes around, picks up speed. But they shaking the ground. This is Shiva causing all this destruction. This is the Antichrist minion with a Shiva mask on. So they're doing destruction to pull him out of this abyss. Here these fish come and jump in the boat. Now these, one YouTuber named Eyes Wide Open cracked this part. These striped fish are actually called sheep's head fish. They come out of the water and they correspond with Sheep's Head Bay in Brooklyn, New York. So I think this represents probably all the death that's going to come upon the U.S. maybe. But it's awkward sequence though, because you have his fire on his legs already. Yeah, it probably still yeah, that's probably the same event though. I was thinking about something else. But yeah, so this Sheep's Head Bay, Brooklyn, New York, represents, you know, like the nuking of the East Coast, if you will. He's still in his comatose state though, but everything's falling apart around him. See the light though? Now this scene right here, there's a lady in this lighthouse, which is obviously a penis, the man laying down with his leg up like that. And there's also one in the clouds here shooting semen down. Remember on the chalkboard how we saw this and it was shooting semen? And I actually failed to mention that over here. When this lotus plant opens up and you see the transcendent one who was joined with the Antichrist, you can actually see like dots here that I think represent the same thing as we see elsewhere. So here you have that same event where the penis is shooting semen down towards this one. This seed, the two seeds joined, and this light right here represents that alternate dimension that they expect to create. Second. So she's waiting. This is that alternate dimension. This is the seed, and as it zooms in, you see how the seed is basically coming in contact with this seed on the side of this penis. And that represents what we saw with that fruit where the two seeds combine. And this is supposed to be the church. You see the cross at the top. And it's a lighthouse. She's waiting on somebody. She's waiting on Christ's return. But they're basically saying that that's not the hope that she should be looking for. She should be waiting on this alternate dimension. And there's actually a voice in the background that says something like redemption, worship, the presence of Moses or something like that. But she's looking, she's waiting, she kind of sets herself to wait a little bit. But this alternate dimension comes, which represents the hope of the Antichrist, you know, the hope that they're going to present and all this and that. And they say, well, the church has their false beliefs. She's being superstitious. She's resisting it. She won't accept it at first. But then, because of the change in the Garden of Eden, which is why this is lit up, where Eve refuses to eat of the fruit, well, then that alternate dimension is going to help her. So that was the alternate dimension taking place, and then you're going to see her wound recover. She's also got different size shoes on, which is interesting. So you see her spot is healed, and it looks like she's actually worshiping God here. But you see the 1, 2, 3, 4 with a line drawn through it. That corresponds with what we saw with the LC 2016. You know, it had a line drawn through it, means it's over with. So X 1, 2, 3, 4 with a line through it. So 15 was over with in that Obama scene. But now we were in the 16th year, so 12, 3, 16. So this is supposed to be her in the alternate dimension. You know, that is what this is as well. This is the Antichrist coming out through the alternate dimension. And the reason why we know that is you can see this pattern back here. How it's got this crossover layer right here. It's actually a dual on one side and then a single on the other. And it crosses over and then comes back up to this circle that looks like a flower object or a butterfly object. He's coming out there in this picture. But that's not where he comes out in this dimension. See, that pattern corresponds to what we see here in the church, where the 1 goes up and then the 2 on the other side, and it's got that flower or butterfly symbol at the top with the opening at the bottom. They're saying in the alternate dimension he's going to come out of that hole and be, you know, unified with the church, and everything going to come out under a Christian theme. But in this dimension, he comes out under the devil's head. Again, more of their chaos, more of their destruction, which they think is going to bring about a good result. See, in this dimension, the Antichrist comes out under this devil's head. So there again, you see the 2 dimensions. So that's the church dimension. When he comes out in the alternate dimension according to their belief. So they're presenting to you different dimensions here. This is the Shiva doing her dance of destruction. Here we have a good economy represented by the man in suits and ties. It goes 3 men back, and then you see the third guy has his head busted open. So there's the 3, the third guy with his head busted open. You see? Antichrist comes up. There's going to be an explosion here. But before we look at that, notice that there are 12 people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Remember on the floor where Obama was, it was 12, 3, 15 with a line through it. 15 completed years. The third guy back had his head busted open, remember? And now you have a 12 in this line, and there are 15 rows of 12 here, 15 completed rows. So I think it corresponds with the 15 completed years, you know, the X 1, 2, 3, 4 with a line drawn through it all. So in the 16th year, if you will, 12/3, December the 3rd. But amidst a good economy, there is an explosion. And back here, I believe you have what looks like WHJKT. Okay, I'm not sure positive about the WH, but it looks like that's a W. That's a H. But this is definitely a J. This is a K. And then this is a T. And what that represents, I believe, in the context of an explosion, the J is the 10th letter of the alphabet, the 10 kiloton explosion. You can see my other videos where I talk about that and show how they actually say the biggest device terrorists could get would be a 10 kiloton explosion. They actually do scenarios of blowing up the White House with it. You know, they do research and figure out what's going to happen if they do it. I believe that's what they're talking about here. Amidst a good economy, Obama's foot's going to be hit, if you will, on 12/3/16. knocking his foot over the coin with RIP on his face, hitting the White House, if you will, and that's going to cause the economic collapse with this single explosion. And now he gets the fire on his chest here. He doesn't have fire on his feet right here, but he gets this fire on his chest. Okay, and so he zooms in on the fire to show this is when he's getting his fire. And so this happened before. I know I said I wasn't going to jump around, but jumping around. This happens before this moss scene where he's already got the fire on his chest. See, watch. When the bomb gets moss and that boy comes up, he's already got fire on his chest. And then he turns that boy into fire. So that bombing amidst the good economy happened first before the bombing of the mosque, the 10 kiloton explosion. And that destroyed that good economy. And that's what you see over here as well, where the bombing, you have the 3 in his eye, and you see the markets collapse, and then war coverage, and then the planes go over and bomb the mosque. So the markets collapse before the war coverage. So again, you have an event that causes the market collapse, and that is what goes on here. The event that causes the market collapse is this initial explosion amidst a good economy, or at least what looks like a good economy, which was also signified when it hit Obama's foot and he had the RIP on his nose. So this, I believe, is going to be at the, represents the explosion at the White House, if not more than that, but at least that. Destroy the economy, blamed on terrorists, give the reason to go bomb overseas, and then Russia retaliates, the missiles coming out of the mosque, and then America's East Coast is nuked. See, you can see the Abkeo there. His other eye says Ordo. Again, it still says 3. Ordo Abkeo, which is order out of chaos. Now, that it showed the Antichrist coming up. It's not really in sequential order and everything in here, but this minion, the thing that came out of the mind's eye of the Antichrist, is going away because he's done his destruction. Now the chaos, the Abkeo, is gone, and now here comes the Ordo, problem, reaction, solution. Drained him, robbed him of his culture, emptied his mind out, traumatized him, made him hopeless. So now when the Antichrist comes, he's fully accepting of him. He just got a whirlwind of snow just going around his head, just empty-headed as can be. And honestly, it looks like that's a shark fin back here. Did you see it? I think it all corresponds. It looks like a shark fin. Yes, just the destruction, the hopelessness they bring on the world. And then you see the skeleton, which I said probably represents destruction in the United States, and he's just carrying on with it. He has some type of design in his eye. Looks like a P in this eye. But he's orchestrating. See the P? Yes. He's just orchestrating destruction, and I think corresponds with the destruction of the United States. That's all I'm saying, is the continuation of that, more destruction going on. See a P in his eye? Then you see this boy come up. He's got the damaged eye, remember? We talked about that. And he's in these white clothes that are too big for him, and that again is the alternate dimension. He died as a boy in this dimension, but they believe in the next dimension he's going to fulfill his potential and be, have room to grow. Basically, his clothes are too big, representing his next life, his alternate life, but he died as a boy in this dimension. Again, representing their silver lining that they try to put on all the evil that they do under the leadership of Satan, who has them deceived. Here again, you see the mosque, you see the targets in the background. Looks like a city, Brooklyn Bridge, the city. A ship over here, aircraft carrier, looks like Pentagon down here. This also, I think, may represent DC Monument, but this is the Pentagon. More of their dance of destruction. That's all that represents, is just a massive amount of destruction they're doing. Shark fins come up. Again, there's probably a whole lot I'm missing in this video because it's just jam-packed with hidden messages. See, everything's falling down around him too. They're destroying the world to the point to where, intentionally doing it, but they believe that they're going to be able to transcend through the Antichrist. Now, he lost his mask here, and I don't know who that looks like. Some people say George Soros. Some people say George Soros. To me, it kind of looked like Anton LaVey. I don't know, but he lost his mask there. I don't know who it is, but he's looking up at the light. This is the coming of the light bringer, Lucifer, the Antichrist, whatever. Well, no, I would probably say this is probably the new dimension they think they're achieving through all that destruction. Probably what that means. Just like the light representing the new dimension to that lady that was in that tower representing the church. So they actually think they're going to go through, they're going to be able to achieve it. He does something though. All that evil, killing babies, sacrificing children, raping children, killing innocent people, lying to everybody, deceiving everybody, and the devil's got them deceived like that. And they think by following him, they're not being deceived. He's deceiving them too. But this is the devil's head the Antichrist comes out of. This was his spiritual consciousness in this realm. But this is going to close its eyes, and then the Antichrist is going to open his eyes. That is, the consciousness is transferred into the physical Antichrist. He's got the fish in the boat with him. Remember those fish jumped in the boat? I think that's what that is right there. He's got all this fire on him. See again the barcode looking pattern on his boat. See? And as he comes out, these lotus flowers come up, which represent transcendent souls. I think either represents that he is going to cause men to transcend, or that he is getting influenced by souls that have already transcended. Like in that movie Donnie Darko, how Donnie was constantly influenced by Frank, who had transcended. But those are transcendent souls, whether he causes them or is getting affected by them. Because they know that Antichrist is going to be evil. They just think they're going to be able to... He's going to have an awakening, if you will. Looks like there's some on his back. I never noticed that before. Let's try to catch that. But you see here, the sun is coming up. There is the hand, but there's nothing over here yet. But we are going to see something different in the sky, as it shows later in the video. But I want to see what this on. We can catch that on his back, because that looks like there might be something there. There's something there. What is that on his back? When you sleuths figure that out. He's got something on his back. You see that? It's purple. Can't see it because the title keeps coming over. Looks like a Baphomet head. What does it look like to you? Alright, I'm going to do it again without the title. But, see if you can tell what it is. Here we go. Looks like a Baphomet head to me. I don't know. But, okay, so he opens his eyes so that consciousness has been transferred. That's what I mean. This video has so much stuff in it. And this barbed wire representing his imprisonment in the abyss is going to go away. And this church is going to collapse. So in the alternate dimension, they expect him to come out and be, you know, influenced part of the church, harmonious with the church. But in this dimension, he's harmonious with the devil. But that's all good for them, because they think that, you know, hey, problem react equal and opposite reaction, so that's fine. You know, they'll serve Satan in this life, thinking that it's going to counter Satan in the next dimension. It's ridiculous. Oh Lord, help our minds. It's crazy that people bound by lust, you know, and trying to justify their lust and feel like the evil that the devil has them bound to do is not, they're not going to be accountable for it, but they're going to be able to transcend it. That's just deception. This barbed wire comes off his head, and that normally the eye is up here representing the transcendent Lucifer, or, you know, the Antichrist or Lucifer's all-seeing eye, his influence in this world while he is yet in another dimension. But as you see, the barbed wire comes off, and now what represented the mass of people, now the eye is down here. I think it represents, you know, the transcendence coming to the whole populace. But again, the cross is getting, I mean, the church is getting destroyed here. So they're fine with that, because they think, you know, it's all good. You know, they don't want good. To them, good is evil and evil is good. This almost looks like a lizard head or something right here. Looks like some type of bridge or something. Yeah. This is taking a while. I don't really see anything in these clouds. There probably is something though. Well, in this scene right here, again we have what looks kind of like a shark fin, but there's a hand in a cloud. It looks like a hand. This looks like a bird, maybe a phoenix. You know, they believe the phoenix represents like an animal that comes up after his being destroyed, you know, out of the ashes. Here you have a scorpion tail, poison, and I believe, you know, in the book of Revelation chapter 9, it talks about those that come out of the abyss had power as scorpions have power. And the Bible says everyone would see the mark in their right hand or in their forehead. And I believe that's what this represents. You know, he said as scorpions have power, an injection. You know, John wouldn't have said a hypodermic needle. They got stingers like scorpion. It's like the power of a scorpion when it strikes a man. So I believe the mark of the beast is probably going to be given by injection in the right hand, and that is somehow going to infuse maybe the Antichrist's, whatever he brings, whatever type of transcendent booster or whatever they're going to market it as. And this is a baby, like I said before, looking at the sun, which I think represents the true coming of Christ. And notice how it's going to destroy this pyramid. So they know, I believe they know that they're going to get destroyed. but they don't care. It's like that movie Donnie Darko again, which is very Luciferian. How he just knew he was going to die, but he willingly died because he was going to transcend. That's a Luciferian movie. See, pyramid gets destroyed and all the other ones collapse. So there you have it. That's kind of what I've seen so far in the show. Probably missed a whole lot of stuff, but there you go.